You're in a meeting. Two candidates. One is raw, awkward, but brilliant. The other is polished, charming, and says all the right things. Your gut says the polished one is the safe bet. But deep down, you know the raw one has the fire. Which one do you pick? Most people choose the polished. And most people get it wrong. Because polish can be a mask. And masks are the enemy of trust. In a world that worships the smooth operator, the rustic visionary gets overlooked. But here's the truth, polish without substance is just a well-dressed lie. The polished candidate glides through the interview, but 3 months in, they are still recycling the same talking points. The rustic? They stumble in the first week, but by month 2, they are transforming the team. The choice isn't between safe and risky, it's between genuine growth and comfortable stagnation. This isn't a modern dilemma. It's ancient. Confucius, the great sage of China, wrestled with it 2,500 years ago. In Book 11 of the Analects, his students recorded a conversation that cuts to the heart of this tension. Confucius wasn't just a philosopher, he was a practical teacher who saw how people get trapped by appearances. His lesson here is a masterclass in balance. Let's set the scene. Confucius lived during the Zhou dynasty, a time of political chaos and social upheaval. Rulers were corrupt, rituals were empty, and everyone was obsessed with looking good. Sound familiar? The pressure to appear refined was immense. But Confucius saw through it. He noticed that the most impressive people weren't always the most polished. In fact, the ones with true depth often came from humble beginnings, the rustics. This was a radical idea. The elite of his day prided themselves on their cultivation of rites and music. They had the best tutors, the finest clothes, the most sophisticated manners. But Confucius asked, did they have the heart? Did they understand the meaning behind the rituals, or were they just going through the motions? His insight is timeless. We live in an era of curated perfection, Instagram filters, rehearsed TED Talks, polished LinkedIn profiles. Everyone is a brand. But beneath the surface, how much is real? Confucius would say, not much. And he'd warn you that building your life on that kind of sand is a recipe for collapse. So listen closely. This isn't about rejecting refinement. It's about knowing what comes first. The foundation. The substance. The grit. Once you have that, polish can enhance it. But without it, polish is just a mask that will eventually slip. Think of it like a tree. If you focus on pruning the branches before the roots are deep, you'll have a beautiful bonsai that dies at the first drought. The rustic prioritizes the roots first, then allows the branches to grow naturally. That's the order that breeds resilience. The original Chinese. Translation: those who first advance through ritual and music are the rustic. Those who later advance through ritual and music are the refined. If I were to employ them, I would follow the former. This line is the key. Confucius isn't condemning the refined, he's saying that when you have to choose, the rustic who has built the foundation first is the safer bet. The refined may look the part, but they lack the inner substance to sustain it. This is a strategic insight for anyone who leads, hires, or builds. Let's unpack this. Confucius draws a line between two types, the rustic and the refined. The rustic learns the basics first, the raw substance. Then they add polish. The refined, on the other hand, are all polish first. They learn the rules, the etiquette, the right way to behave. But they often lack genuine depth. Confucius says, if I had to choose, I'd pick the rustic. Why? Because the rustic has substance. They have the foundation. The refined may look good, but their foundation is flimsy. They are like a building with a beautiful facade but no steel frame. This is not a rejection of refinement. Confucius isn't saying be crude. He's saying, start with the real stuff. Learn the essence before the form. In modern terms, master the fundamentals before you worry about the presentation. The golden mean here is balance. Too much raw substance without polish? You're a brute. Too much polish without substance? You're a fraud. The goal is to be both, but start with substance. Because substance can be polished. But you can't add substance to polish. Consider the analogy of a tree. The rustic is like a tree with deep roots but rough bark. It may not look perfect, but it can withstand storms. The refined is like a bonsai, shaped and pruned to perfection, but fragile. It looks beautiful in a controlled environment, but one strong wind and it's gone. Now take it a step further. Think about a martial artist. The beginner focuses on basics, stance, balance, breathing. They look clumsy. But over time, those basics become second nature, and their technique becomes fluid and powerful. The one who skips basics to learn flashy moves might impress in a demo, but in a real fight, they'll crumble. That's the rustic versus refined in action. Or consider a musician. The rustic learns scales and theory for years before improvising. The refined learns a few popular chords and a smooth stage presence. One gets a record deal, the other a session gig. But when the refined artist loses their edge, they have nothing to fall back on. The rustic can reinvent themselves because their foundation is solid. Confucius's point is strategic. In any endeavor, whether leading a team, building a relationship, or growing yourself, the foundation determines your ceiling. You can learn to polish your rough edges, but you can't fake depth. If you try, you'll eventually be exposed. So think about your own life. Are you building roots, or just pruning branches? The answer will determine how much weight you can carry. In relationships, this is gold. Think about the person who knows all the right things to say. They compliment you perfectly, they remember your birthday, they follow the script. But something feels off. There's no depth. That's the refined in action. Now think about the friend who's awkward, maybe says the wrong thing, but is fiercely loyal. They show up when it counts. They don't have the script, but they have the heart. That's the rustic. Confucius would say, marry the rustic. Hire the rustic. Be the rustic. Because love isn't about perfect gestures. It's about genuine care. When you focus on substance first, your relationships become real. And real relationships last. Polish can be added later, a kind word, a thoughtful gift. But if the foundation isn't there, no amount of polish will fix it. So next time you're dating or making friends, ask yourself, is this person real, or are they just polished? Choose real. And if you're the one trying to be attractive, stop worrying about saying the right thing. Focus on being the right person. Cultivate honesty, reliability, and empathy. Those are the traits that build trust. Without trust, no relationship survives. With it, even the clumsiest words can be forgiven. Remember, the rustic lover isn't perfect, but they are present. And presence beats perfection every time. Let's add a layer. In a romantic relationship, the polished partner plans elaborate dates but vanishes when you're sick. The rustic partner might forget an anniversary but spends the night at the hospital. Which would you rather have? The world tells you to value the grand gesture, but Confucius says look at the bedrock. The rustic's loyalty is the soil from which all love grows. The polished person's efforts are like flowers planted on concrete, they look nice for a day, then wither. At work, this is a leadership lesson. Many leaders hire for polish. They want the candidate with the perfect resume, the confident handshake, the slick presentation. But Confucius warns, be careful. The polished candidate may be all surface. Instead, look for the rustic. The person who asks questions, who admits what they don't know, who has a hunger to learn. They may not look the part, but they have the substance. They'll grow. They'll adapt. they'll become the leader you need. As a leader, you should also embody this. Don't be the boss who just manages appearances. Be the boss who knows the work, who understands the struggle. Lead from substance. Your team will respect you for it. And when you communicate, don't just use buzzwords. Speak from your experience. Your authenticity will cut through the noise. In a world of corporate fluff, the rustic leader stands out. Consider the example of Steve Jobs. He was famously rough around the edges, abrasive, demanding, sometimes rude. But he had substance. He understood product, design, and user experience at a fundamental level. His polish came later, in the form of elegant presentations. But the substance was always there first. Or think about the best teacher you ever had. Was it the one with the most polished lectures, or the one who genuinely cared about your learning? The one who admitted when they didn't know something, and then figured it out with you. That's the rustic educator. So whether you're hiring, leading, or teaching, prioritize substance. The polish is easy to add. The depth is not. Now, consider the startup world. Investors often fall for the polished pitch, the charismatic founder with a slick deck. But the real winners are often the awkward engineers who built something that actually works. They don't know how to sell, but they know how to solve. That's the rustic advantage. When the market shifts, the polished founder panics. The rustic adapts because they understand the fundamentals. For personal growth, this is a call to build from the ground up. Too many people chase the polish at first. They want the Instagram aesthetic, the impressive title, the perfect body. But they neglect the inner work, the character, the discipline, the values. Confucius says, start with the basics. Master the fundamentals of being a good person. Be honest, be kind, be diligent. Then add the polish, the skills, the knowledge, the presentation. The order matters. If you build your life on a foundation of substance, you'll weather any storm. But if you build on polish, the first crack will bring the whole thing down. So ask yourself, what's your foundation? Are you building on the real stuff, or just the shiny stuff? The answer will determine your trajectory. Let's get practical. Start a journal. Write down your core values. Not the ones you think you should have, but the ones you actually live by. Then ask, am I acting in alignment with these? If not, you're building on polish. Next, develop a skill that requires patience. Something that forces you to struggle, like learning a language, playing an instrument, or coding. The struggle builds substance. The achievement is just the polish. Finally, practice vulnerability. Admit your mistakes. Share your doubts. This is the opposite of polish, but it's the path to real connection and growth. Remember, you can't fake substance. It's earned through effort, time, and failure. But once you have it, no one can take it away. Consider the example of a public speaker. The polished speaker memorizes the script and delivers it flawlessly. But when the audience asks an unexpected question, they freeze. The rustic speaker knows the topic deeply. They can speak off the cuff because they understand the core. Their presentation might be rough, but their message sticks. Over time, they become the polished one too, but with a foundation that can handle any curveball. Of course, not everyone agrees with Confucius. Some argue that in today's world, polish is essential. First impressions matter. You can't get a job without a good resume. You can't build a brand without a polished image. They say the rustic is at a disadvantage. And they have a point. But Confucius isn't saying ignore polish. He's saying don't prioritize it over substance. The debate is about what comes first. In a world that rewards the polished, it's tempting to fake it till you make it. But faking it often leads to a hollow success. The real wisdom is to find the balance. Be polished enough to open doors, but have the substance to walk through them. The modern world needs both. But if you have to choose, choose substance. Because you can always learn to polish. But you can't learn to be real. Consider the rise of authenticity in marketing. Consumers are tired of slick ads. They want real stories, real people. Brands that embrace their flaws, like the rustic approach, often win loyalty. Apple's early ads were simple, almost amateurish. But they had substance. They spoke to the rebel, the thinker, the one who didn't fit in. Or look at the success of raw, unscripted content on social media. People flock to creators who show their real lives, not just the highlight reel. The polished influencer is losing ground to the rustic storyteller. So yes, polish has its place. But it's the servant, not the master. Use it to enhance your substance, not to hide its absence. That's the path to lasting influence. Let's go deeper. In a job interview, the polished candidate speaks in platitudes, "I'm a team player, and I think outside the box." The rustic says, "I made a mistake on a project, but here's what I learned." Which one would you trust? The polished one might get the job, but the rustic will keep it. Because when challenges arise, the polished one crumbles. They've never had to deal with real failure. The rustic has grown through it. Polish fades. Substance endures. Build from the inside out. So next time you're faced with a choice, between the rustic and the refined, remember Confucius. Choose the one with the fire. And if you want to be the one chosen, build your fire first. The polish can come later. This is the ancient wisdom for modern success. Start today. Strip away the unnecessary layers. Get back to basics. Find your substance. And let the polish be the icing, not the cake. Because in the end, what matters is what's inside. That's the lesson of the rustic. That's the path of the sage. Don't just take my word for it. Try it. In your next decision, whether hiring, dating, or self-improvement, ask, am I choosing the rustic or the refined? Let Confucius guide you. The results will speak for themselves.